Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader. I'm pre-recording some videos for while I have family and stuff and travel and things like that. So I think this video is going to air on New Year's Eve, December 31st. And so I want to say thanks for an awesome 2024 with all of you. I really appreciate all of you for watching the channel. I've said this many times, but this channel is already much larger than I ever expected it to be. I'm not trying to take over YouTube, take over the world. But, to me, I figured it would be a success if 1,000 subscribers joined my channel. And here I am at, I don't know what it is now, 7,000 plus. So those of you that have supported my channel this year, the Patreon supporters, and just the channel viewers, those of you that comment and like on my videos that help with the algorithms, I just want to say thanks. And I'm planning on continuing to do what I do in 2025, although I will say I'm probably not going to be buying much, if anything, in 2025, at least for the foreseeable future, just because I've got some other goals in mind for my diversification of assets. And I think I've got, this year I picked up a lot of stuff, way more than I usually do. And I think it's good to take breaks every now and again. And I think that at least for a while, I'm going to be taking a break. But I'm going to get my collecting fix, my Star Wars collecting fix by making these videos for you and continuing to send out buy it now alerts for those of you that are still buying to my Patreon supporters. So again, just many thanks from the bottom of my heart for those of you that watch my stupid videos. Let's go ahead and take a look at some vintage MOCs that sold in December. And we're going to start off with Jada 34. This is a seller we talk about all the time. This Death Squad Commander was a 12-back, unpunched, but it did have that frosting going on the figure. You can see it on the head and then on one of the boots there, maybe even on one of the arms. So, it's just something to keep in mind that the Death Squad Commander in particular, on 12, 21 ESBs. I've even seen it on Return of the Jedi MOCs for the Death Squad Commander or Star Destroyer Commander. That figure, for some reason, just tends to cause molding inside the blister sometimes, not all the time. So it's just something to keep an eye out for if you're bidding on these. Now, in all fairness, this one is in really great shape. The blister's in pretty good shape, maybe just a slight wave to the top of the blister. And it sold for $586. So I think it was appropriately discounted for the mold, and there was also some light scuffing and, sticker residue, things like that. But this is, if it hadn't been for the mold on the figure, that mold on the figure automatically cuts the figure score down on a graded item to a 75 at best, sometimes even a 70. I think it gets a 75. And, there's some scuffing on the card, things like that. But, $586 for a 12-back. That's about as good as it gets for a nice clear blister where the card is in really good shape, unpunched. I think that's a very fair deal if you can live with that. And, I've talked about this in the past too. Other people have had success by putting it underneath a UV lamp for 15 minutes at a time to see if it'll kill off the bacteria. Sometimes it comes back. Sometimes it stays away. Who knows what causes it to go away and stay. So that is an option if you happen to buy one, either a DSC or a Darth Vader is another one that can sometimes get that mold, and you just got to keep an eye out for it. Next up, same seller had a 20 back Boba Fett offer, and I don't know which one this is. It looks like the E, maybe the E, I don't know. But a pretty nice example. It did have price sticker in the upper right and a little bit of creasing by the hang tab, but very clean. I think it gets an 80 grade very easily, and that's why it sold for what it did at $823. Pretty much anything with the Boba Fett offer on there that's in near mint minus condition like this, you're going to be paying a pretty decent price no matter what the character is. So I thought that was a very nice example, though, for Snaggletooth on that 20 back. Here's a transition Empire Strikes Back card with the Secret Star Wars action figure offer. And when I say transition, that just means the first 21 characters are the only ones that appeared on this particular card back variation. And this was for C-3PO. Great looking example here. Very nice high grade example. Light scuffing at the bottom of the card and one little ding on the right hand side of the card back. But 710 you know, it's maybe towards the upper end of the range, but it is a very clean example. I think it easily, again, grades probably about an 80 grade, clear blister, transition card, tough to find. So 710 is certainly not out of the ballpark, in my opinion. Here was that 47 back, free 4 line ball for Darth Vader, clear blister, AFA 75+. I think I had this in a what to buy video. I was thinking it would go at least $500. Not terribly surprised that it sold for $642. Clear blister, Darth Vader, ESB card back. It's a lot of money. And AFA 80 for this would probably be, I would think, closer to $1,000. I don't remember the last time I've seen an AFA 80 or above for an ESB Darth Vader, no matter what ESB card back it is. I don't know the last time I've seen one go for under $1,000. I think it's easily over 1,000. And I think for $642 for that was a very fair price on that. Here was a yellow blister 47 back, 75+ grade for the Hoth Stormtrooper. Unpunched, but 2 price stickers in the upper left-hand corner. That one sold for $337. A very fair deal, if you ask me. And, you know, again, it is yellowed, so there are collectors that are just, they don't want it. You know, they're just not willing to do it. 75, 85, 80 were the sub-scores, 75+. I wager to think that if this was clear blister, that you could pretty safely add $200 to it. It's a 75+. AFA 80, I would say $800 plus all day long, if not $900. So very fair price at $337. Staying on the Hoth Stormtrooper, same seller also had this tri-logo for the Hothy, and this one was an unpunched example as well. Card back was very clean, just some light scuffing to it. The blister looked really good. I think this one gets an 80 grade. You know, I had one little ding in the upper right-hand corner on the top of the blister, but you know, that's a pretty nice example. For that price, $450, that's a good deal. We just talked about one that sold on eBay. I can't remember the price, but it was in that $500 to $600 range at least for an AFA 80. So unpunched as well on this one. Great buy at $450 if you ask me. This is another beauty. It was only a 75 grade, but it's a clear blister double stem blister for a Palitoy 65 back Luke Skywalker Farm Boy. And there are the subgrades on it. The blister got a 70. I don't know why it got that 70. Something must be going on more than what you can really see in the photos. I mean, it looks like that maybe that's the right-hand stem has something going on maybe with the blister, but the rest of the blister looks super clean. So I'm not sure why I got the 70 grade. There must be something going on in that lower corner, maybe a very small crack or something like that in those stems, which is not very surprising just given how fragile these double stem blisters are. Yeah, you can see down there, it looks pretty good. So I don't know what happened there. It must be a crack or something right there by the LFL on the card back. But to me, this presents a lot nicer than a 75 grade. And $693 for that, I think that's a pretty fair deal. That's a really nice example there. I just picked up one, I think mine's a 65 back for Dengar, and mine got a 75 plus from AFA. And I would argue that this blister looks cleaner than mine. So I'm really shocked that they gave it a blister subscore of 70. But, you know, they did round it up to a 75 with the card and figure scores being an 80. So, you know, it probably cancels it out with how they decided to upgrade the overall grade to a 75. So $693, very fair price. So that's about what I paid for my Dengar ungraded, and this is a Luke Farm Boy, so and already graded. So I think this one was a really good deal relative to the overpay that I did. Here are a couple of die cast. Here's the X-Wing die cast, and this card back obviously had some wear to it. So it's just kind of a low data point for those of you that are looking to add these. You can see the creasing on the card there. Faint spider veins all throughout the card. Still sold for $275. And then the Snow Speeder also had some creasing to the card, $360 on that one. But clear blister-ish. It looks clear. Maybe it might be slightly yellowed there. Hard to tell. It's hard to tell sometimes. Overall, very clean though. And, again, these are not really good grade candidates. These are just ones to get a sliding acrylic case and check off the box if you're into collecting the mint on card die cast. This price on the Dengar, I don't know what happened here, okay? This one was an AFA 80 yellowed blister, and this goes back to what we're talking about, right? Remember the Raincore Keeper from a couple of weeks ago and how it was labeled a clear blister, but it really wasn't? This one clearly has got yellowing to the blister, and it sold for $1,074. Folks, I bought a 41 back C at ICCC 2 years ago, and it was ungraded, and it was slightly yellowed, and I paid $160 for it, okay? And it got an 80 grade with CAS. And they gave it a clear blister too. I personally considered it to be slightly yellowed in the upper left-hand corner. I sold it for like $500, and in all fairness, in the sales post, I said, I personally think it's starting to yellow slightly in the upper left-hand corner. It was nowhere near like this, though, where it's fully yellowed. I mean, this is a fully yellowed blister, labeled, of course, clear blister, so it's probably an older grade, certainly is. And it sold for $1,074. Don't pay this. How many times have we seen this on yellowed blister tri-logos that CIB had, and fairly, to their credit, they mentioned in the auction description, blister has yellowed since grading. And they would still sell for insane money. We saw the Raincore Keeper on Hakes. We saw the AFA 80 Raincore Keeper on eBay that sold 2 weeks ago for like $800. Just don't do it. You've got to know what you're buying. And this is, and I'm not chastising you if you bought this, okay? Have at it. It's your money. I'm just trying to help you all save money, okay? That's the whole point of my channel, really. I mean, no one cares about my collection, really. What people are unboxing. The reason you guys watch my channel is to give you better idea of prices and what not to do. This is a good example of what not to do. Don't spend $1,000 on a very common 41 back Dengar. Now, it's not common in high grade. I admit that. It's hard to find Dengars in high grade and unpunched and no price sticker. It had a lot going for it, but not $1,074 going for it. This is max, I would think, $400 to $450 as a fair market value. So just be careful going into next year. If you're buying, look at what you're buying. Don't just look at the label. We talk about that all the time. Buy the figure, not the grade. And this was a really good example of what not to do, in my opinion. And I'm not banging on you if you happen to buy it. Okay, I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm just trying to help. All right. So here was an AFA 7541A survival kit offer, clear blister, Stormtrooper. AFA 75 with 285 subscores. That sold for $745. Big number there. But kind of like Darth Vader, Stormtrooper's clear blister on ESP cardbacks in fairly high grade or very high grade, you're going to pay a lot of money. That's just the way it is. And this was a nice example. Very, very nice example of the Stormtrooper on an ESP cardback. Here was the Forlom offer, 47 back Luke Bespin, brown-haired, punched example. Now, it was only an AFA 70. Straight 70s for the subscore. I get it why I got the figure score of 70 because, like we talk about, the brown-haired Luke Bespin almost always discolors for the torso. Almost always. And especially for Hong Kong examples, you can find some like blank race bar, China overstock baggies and just the figures themselves that are loose graded and high grade that don't have that discoloration. But the Hong Kong brown-haired Lukes, they almost always do this. They almost, even inside the blister. So just be prepared for that. But, and I can see why the blister also got the 70 because it had a big pronounced ding on the top of the blister there. But it was clear blister and the cardback looked pretty good. I mean, I guess it got the 70 because of all the edge wear. But, again, we've looked at other items lately, especially tri-logos, where it's had a lot of edge wear like this and it's still got an 80. Well, this one got a 70, so there must be something going on, maybe some light creases that you can't see on the card. But it still sold for $422, which, again, if this was an AFA 80, you can probably triple this number to $1,200 or more. So not terribly surprising on that price. Here was a clear blister Luke Return of the Jedi. Those are very expensive and high grade. This was only a 70 grade, so it kept the price down to $299. But how beautiful does that look? Oh, that bright blue. There's something about Luke Hoth on any card back where it's got a clear blister. That blue name pill, that blue behind the figure, the kind of soft blue to the to the Tauntaun there. I mean, it just really pops, man. I love that one. I love Luke Hoth. He just looks awesome. He's one of those figures that looks so good, and it's the worst playability in the history of the world. It just would not stand up when I was growing up playing with it. So mint on cards the way to go for Luke Hoth. $2.99 again on that one. Here is a good deal. This was a really good deal. This was a made in Mexico Chief Chirpa, clear blister, obviously, which is very common because, again, the blisters tend to stay clear for the made in Mexico for the U.S. market. AFA 80 plus, and it sold for $227. I thought that was a very good deal. Very fair price on that one. Next up, we've got some Power of the Force I wanted to cover from Brian's Toys, and then we're going to come back to Brian's Toys with some Ewoks, but this was an AFA 75 plus for Obi-Wan on the Power of the Force card, $295. If you're looking for Obi-Wan on the Power of the Force card, this is the third or fourth one that we've talked about in the last month or so where the prices have really come down, okay? So whether you buy it graded or ungraded, if that's one you need for your collection, now's a good time to buy it. It's really come back down in price. A year ago, year and a half ago, this was like, in an AFA 80, admittedly, this was a 75 plus, but an AFA 80, they were going for $800 to $900. Now it's more like for an AFA 80, I would say $450, maybe to $600 at the most. But, this 75 plus sold for $300. So that makes me think that an AFA 80, you could pretty comfortably get one for $500 now, maybe $550. I think $600 is pushing it. Next up, we've got some other Power of the Force AFA 80 for EB99, no price sticker, unpunched. That sold for $765 on one bid. Same seller also had an AFA 80 punched example for the Imperial Gunner. AFA 80, really nice example for $765 as well. So probably the same buyer since it was only one bid on both of those. But just a couple of data points for those of you looking for near mint condition Power of the Force. Back to Brian's Toys, we got some Ewoks. We had a yellowed 80 for the Duloc Scout. $200 on that one. Pretty good deal. Unpunched example. The Lady Gornish was punched. AFA 80. $208. Very fair price there. King Gornish, AFA 80. Punched example. Sold for $208. So all of those were about $200, give or take. And then we had the Duloc Shaman sold for $210, so just slightly higher. That one was an AFA 80 plus as well. So all of those went really cheap if you're into the Ewoks line. They seem to be going cheap right now. And then finally, Logray was only a 75 plus, but this one is made in the Lily Letty factory down in Mexico. So those and the Wickets tend to stay clear blister. We just covered a Wicket that sold for $500. That was near mint condition. This one was a 75 plus with some litho tears by the Hang Tab, and that one sold for $290, which I would argue is a pretty fair deal for what it is. Typically in higher grade, it could be $450 or so for an AFA 80, something like that. So $290 was very fair. So all of those Ewoks lines went very cheap in auction. So hopefully some of you were able to pick those up for your collection. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave me a like. Thank you again. Happy hunting out there in 2025, and stay safe. Stay in on New Year's Eve. There's no reason to be on the streets late at night with all the drunk idiots driving around. So stay safe and go to bed early like I am. Have a good day. Talk to you soon. Bye.